Hello everybody, welcome to the Noobish Pilot. Today we're going to go over setting up a basic flight plan here within the SimBrief platform and then programming it into one of the airliners in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, in this case the Boeing 737 MAX 8. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 has just come out, and I know a lot of people are probably picking that up, whether you be a veteran pilot or new to flight sims. And I also have a feeling some people picked it up during the holiday season. So we're just going to go over the basics of getting the flight plan set up and programming it into the FMC. This video is not going to cover departures, arrivals, anything like that. We will get into departures, arrivals, LNAV, VNAV, auto land, autopilot, all that fun stuff in a later video. So to start, we're going to go to dispatch.simbrief.com or just simbrief.com, and you'll want to sign into your account. SimBrief is a free platform to use. I do have a paid version myself, as I like to use the Navigraph Charts 8 platform as well. But in this case, you are more than welcome to use your free account. The AirX might not be updated. The most I've ever seen myself behind when I was using free before I got really involved in the flight sims was just 2 behind. So in this case, I am a paid member, so I do have the most up-to-date one, as you can see up here. So to start, anything that's highlighted in red is going to be required. Anything that's not is going to be optional, or the SimBrief platform can go ahead and generate that up for you. So in this case, I'm going to enter an airline, TNP, which is the Noobish Pilot, and then a flight number of 4330. We're going to do a basic flight today. We're going to head from BWI down in Baltimore, Washington, and we are going to head over to Kansas City International, or KMCI. You can go ahead and set an alternate airport for you, but again, SimBrief will automatically do that for you as we move along throughout our flight plan here. Next, we're going to go ahead and select our aircraft info. So again, in this case, it's the Boeing 737 MAX 8. And just like that, we already have a flight plan. You can see that it did generate everything else for us, our climb profile, our CI, fuel factor, registration, FIN number, all that fun stuff. One thing I will say to double check here is just down in this section. In the US here, we do use pounds to weigh out everything in the aeronautical industry. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that over to pounds just so it's up to date more on my flight plan. And then, of course, I'm going to stick with the IFR rules. However, you can go ahead and change your flight rules if you like. Next down here, you can see our schedule block and our departure and arrival runway. So in this case, we're going to be departing from runway 28 and heading into runway 19 left. I will say that within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 right now, even though the option to have ATC always enforce the flight plan is enabled within my sim, seems to not be doing that. So you may get routed to a different runway if you are using the onboard ATC. Our altitude is also going to be automatically calculated for us, as well as our passengers and payload, as well as our zero fuel weight. If you do want to add some freight, you're more than welcome to do so if you're going to be flying a Freightliner versus an airliner. And then down here, we'll see our routes. So we do have a couple of different routes here, and you can see that it does analyze the route for you. So in this case, this one's 864 nautical miles, 856, 868, 871. So it's a couple different things to look at there. I always kind of go with the main one, more of the straight shot here. I mean, yes, this one is kind of shorter. You do kind of bump up a little bit again. Kind of personal preference unless you're flying on an online flight network like VATSIM. So once you have all that created to your liking, you can go ahead and click this Generate Flight option. SimBrief is going to do its thing. It only takes a couple of seconds to do. And then just like that, we have the basics for our OFP, or Operational Flight Plan. So you can see it gives you flight info up here, including your departure and arrival information, as well as your alternate. It does give you your initial cruising altitude, your cruise profile, which is CI, which we'll need for the Boeing 737 FMC, as well as our load sheet. One thing that I have found that makes it a little bit easier for me to get the information that I need is I like to click this View PDF button. And you'll see here that it does bring up a PDF of the flight plan for us here. So I'm just going to zoom in a smidgen more so everybody can see it. But you can see it is normally 44 pages long. Really the only thing I use, especially when I was getting started, is just this first page. So we do have our information as far as departure and arrival. We have our CI, again, which we'll need for the airliner. We have our 34,000 feet, or flight level 340 cruising altitude here. And we also have our reserve fuel here, which again, we're going to need. And again, this is in pounds. Remember, we did take and translate that to pounds from kilograms. So I'm going to keep that up over on my other screen here, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on the Flight Plan Downloads button. I'm going to click Download next to Flight Simulator 2024. Once that's downloaded, make sure you obviously know where it's going. I do have it set up to go to a particular a particular folder on my computer, but again, it's probably just going to be your downloads for if you don't have that set up. That's all we really need to do within SimBrief right now. So now we're going to go ahead and switch over to the sim, and I'll show you how to get that imported. All right, folks, so here we are in the sim. So we're going to go into our free flight options here. We're going to go to this EFB, and we're going to click on the top button here, which is our routing information. Going to scroll all the way to the bottom to this load save flight plan file. Again, this is on my local computer, so I'm going to go ahead and click there. If you have it stored on the cloud, more power to you. We're going to select our one from Baltimore, Washington to Kansas City. You're going to see it does pull in everything that was on that original flight plan. So it shows us leaving from Baltimore, our route, shows our departure, procedure, our arrival, and then our approach. A couple things to double check here is if you want to make it more realistic, you want to start from a gate, make sure you drop that down, not here. You're going to want to keep your runway here, make sure that matches. But you're going to definitely want to change your flight level. I've never had this match, even when I do bring it in from the SimBrief flight plan. So we'll go back over to that really quick, and we're going to see that again, we're going to 34,000 feet. So back over to the sim, we'll update that information. So flight level 340, or you can go to feet if you want. I don't want to do the flight levels. And you'll scroll down, you'll do this file plan with ATC, and then you'll send your route to your avionics. That's a tongue twister. Go ahead next out of there. Now here is where you'll want to update your gate information if you want to depart from a gate. So you can see it already has our route laid out here based on how we imported it from SimBrief. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and head to a gate. We'll go to Delta 1 today. Why not? And that is it. Now you're going to notice that this did change a little bit. The flight plan is already in the FMC within the airliner, so I'll show you that once we get into the flight deck. But from here, that is all we need. So I will see you on board. All right, folks, so welcome aboard the Boeing 737 MAX 8. We are at our gate Delta 1 in Baltimore. I'm going to now show you how to bring everything that we just got from the operational flight plan over to the FMC here. So the first thing it's going to want is going to know where it's at. What is your point of position? Where are you at? So we're going to go ahead and click on this button here. It's going to route us through pretty much everything we need to do in the exact order. Anything you see here is optional. Anything you see in boxes is going to be required. Zoom in a little bit more for y'all. So again, we are currently at Baltimore, so we'll go ahead and type in that airport code, in this case KBWI. Click the button. You saw it come up in the scratch pad. We'll go over to our route now. And again, as we brought that in from SimBrief while we were on the flight planning screen, you're going to see we already have our origin, which is BWI, and we're heading to Kansas City. We can go ahead and enter our flight number here. You don't have to. It just adds to that realism, and you can exclude those piloting assistance things. We'll go ahead and click our perf in it, and this is going to be where we're going to need some information from our flight plan. So the good news is, again, these are all in boxes, so they're required. However, if you click next to your zero fuel weight, the sim is smart enough to calculate that for you, so you can see it drops that into the scratch pad. Click that again, and it comes up. Next, it's asking for our reserves. So next, it's asking for our reserve information, which we can find again on our operational flight plan. So under our final reserve, so we have 1920, 1,920 pounds. So I will say again, we did translate that to pounds. This is actually going to be in tons. So of course that's under a ton. So we'll just slightly round up, but I'm going to just enter 1 for that. Again, if you're going on a longer haul flight or overseas flight and you have more reserve fuel, just make sure you translate what you see on your FMC, or excuse me, your flight plan. Make sure you translate that into pounds before entering it into the FMC. And then again, our cost index, which is also on our flight plan, which is going to be right up here. So our CI of 5. So we'll come back over and enter that. So we'll do 5 for our cost index. It gives us our cruise altitude, or excuse me, our trip altitude. We'll go ahead and enter our cruising altitude, which again, 34, oops. 34,000 feet. And we'll enter that and execute that out. So you're going to see what that did. It gave us a climb profile for our different waypoints, which again, I'll show you. But before we do that, we are going to go ahead and do our N1 limits. So if you look up here on your heads-up display, you see that there's no V speeds. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So nothing to really do here. If you want to get in your climb profile, you're more than welcome to. Again, this is a basic guide, so we're just going to go right into our takeoff profile. Again, we have our boxes. So we're going to take off from this airplane at 5 degrees of flaps. And we're going to do our center of gravity. Again, this is smart enough calculator, so simply click that and click it again. Then you'll go ahead and drop your V-speeds in there. And you'll see if we come back up here now, you can see just a little bit of green right here. That way, as you're going down the runway for takeoff, you can go ahead and view when you're at your V1 rotate and V2 speeds. So that's all we have to do. So in theory, you could take off now and your FMC set up. The aircraft will climb for you. It will descend for you once you reach your top of descent. But one thing I did want to show, because again, I've been seeing on a lot of forums of folks having issues with this, is check your legs, which again, none of ours are in here. So that is just great. Again, all right, folks, so welcome back. I apologize for that. Something happened when I was bringing some things over, but not to worry. We have everything now. So takeoff speeds were deleted just because I was messing with the route a little bit. So we'll go ahead and enter those in there. But as I was saying, go ahead and check your leg information. A lot of people in the forums are saying that their airplane is getting so far and then going off course, starting to just go around in circles, what have you. You want to check your route for any route discontinuities or any of these that say vectors. Vectors is air traffic control giving you directions on where to go. So we don't have any vectors, but we do have a route discontinuity here. So once we get to scripter, airplane's going to try to go somewhere else, but it doesn't know where to go. And then it's probably going to go off course. So to fix this, it's very simple. The first waypoint after this route discontinuity, which is going to be Zapfa in this case, you'll want to click the button next to it. You can see it brings it down in here to the scratch pad. And then you'll click that, drop it up above the route discontinuity, and then execute that out. Now what that did is now if we were able to zoom out far enough, which we can, but it's going to be very difficult to see. But it now has the waypoints all connected. So in theory, this camera's so sensitive. This airplane, if you were to take off once you're airborne and you flip on your LNAV and VNAV within your autopilot, this plane will climb all by itself and get you to where you need to be. Couple things, just beginner stuff to look for. Right now on our routes page, we'll see here the waypoints are going to be over in here, and then you'll see that we have our speeds, and then we have our altitude of where we're going to go. So by JLIN, we should be at 250 knots at 5,154 feet. Again, our cruising altitude is 34,000, so we should be there by Collins. So again, that's flight level 340, and you can see that's where we're going to remain until we begin our descent closer to Kansas City at UIG. And then we'll start our kind of final descent into the Kansas City area, all the way down until we get to our final waypoint, and then eventually end up at runway 19 left. Our next video will go over LNAV and VNAV, as well as setting up the departures and arrival procedures within the FMC. But for now, I do hope that this was helpful for all the new flight sim players out there. I definitely hope to see you online soon. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them leave them below, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm also a new channel, so if you did find any value out of this, I would certainly appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. It is absolutely free to do so. Until next time, guys, thanks again for watching The Noobish Pilot. I'll see you in the skies, and as always, safe travels.